Okay, we are gonna rip this fucker out. I finally started to get the oil pan out here. What you gotta do is you gotta use tin snips. You have to cut the shield between the tranny out because it doesn't give enough room for you to just pull it out. And Ford wants you to pull the engine to do an oil pan. I'm sorry, but Ford, suck my fucking hog because I'm not pulling my engine to take an oil pan off. Why would you make that so difficult? So you gotta cut that off. And then what I did is use a flathead screwdriver and kind of pried in there, pried it out like that, and then eventually, oh, did I just stick it back on there? Eventually you can pull it off like that. This took me a good solid 2 days of effort to get off. That is just stupid. So that's what it looks like. That's what I cut out. Wow, what a pain in the ass. Okay, well, let's get this oil drain line drilled in here and get an oil drain from the turbo. Okay, quick little housekeeping note here. Apparently this oil baffle, if you're fighting with it, it can when you're taking out the oil pan, it can hook on the oil pickup and it can bend it up a bit, and apparently people are saying it can hit your crank. So I just took a rubber mallet and gave it a good couple whacks. They said even bend it down further so that you don't have to tear this oil pan off again, because this is such a nightmare to take off. You don't want to be doing that again. Okay, so I've gone ahead and drawn a little X here where I want my oil drain to go. Make sure that your oil bung is high enough to where the oil's pooling might be somewhere around here. You don't want the drain to be lower than where the oil's pooling, or it won't drain into it. It'll just, that oil will sit there. So you want the oil bung up high. And then another thing is to make sure that your oil bung is in between two of these holes that mount the oil pan onto the bottom of the block, because then you can still get these screws in. So I'm going to use this little bung that I got off eBay because it worked good for the Turbo Civic, and try this out. I should probably put something under here to catch some of this. Some of these shavings. Let's see. Okay, it doesn't look big enough, but it's always good to test. Not quite yet. Try that one on for size. Almost, I guess one more. Whoa. I really want to blow those. Not yet, eh? Okay, a little bit more. That's gotta go now, come on. Really? I guess you gotta drill it out all the way. Whoa. There we go. Let's get these shavings out of here. Slap a jaw on there. And then we're gonna have to wash this oil pan out pretty good. Hope that's in a good spot. Looks like it's about a 23 mil. Get her nice and tight. Oh yeah. Okay, now the proper thing to do here would probably be to get some soap and water and clean all these metal shavings out properly. That's what I did with the Turbo Civic. But I just want to get this thing done. If I got a few metal flakes in here, it's not the end of the world for me, so I'm just gonna give it a wipe like this and then make sure I clean up the edges here really good too. I might even use some rubbing alcohol or something like that to make sure my seal is good when I put the pan back on, and I'll check in a minute here and show you where to go from there. Now comes the fun part of peeling the old gasket off and cleaning the underside of the block. Well, try not to get chunks of sludge in your mouth and your eyeballs. Come on, baby. So when I put this back on, I'm not gonna use a gasket because I didn't buy one. I'm just gonna use my ultra black Permatex gasket maker. And that seems to do the job pretty good. Okay, you're gonna go right there. Sludgy spots, we'll just try and get them with a flat head here, and then I'm gonna hit it with the isopropyl alcohol as well, because we want a good seal. We don't want a leaking oil pan. This thing was already leaking, so by turboing it, we're actually doing some maintenance as well. Ew, sludgy. So this is what I'm using here, ultra black. Even shows a picture of an oil pan there, so that's reassuring. Now we will run a bead all around this thing. So with this gasket maker, you gotta tighten the bolts finger tight and then wait an hour for it to kind of set and then torque it to spec. Okay, I left them for about 45 minutes. Now I'm gonna start tightening them. You can see it squeezing out. Okay, now we'll get this starter back in place here. Come on, Bessie. Is that not fitting there? Are they different sizes? Oh, they go this way, that's why. I'm so smart. Okay, so I've got this end on the oil drain bung side there just mocked up, and then I just threw this one together quick here. So we're just gonna hold it on the bottom of the turbo, and then we're gonna measure our oil drain line to see where I need to cut it. And then we'll go back through these and put the Teflon tape on and stuff like that so they don't leak. So we'll mark it right about there because it'll straighten out a bit. That's where we can slice it. Good. Okay, I was having a hell of a time trying to get on this lower part for the oil drain on the bottom of the turbo. Turns out that these bolt holes are wider than those, because this is probably for a T3, T4 turbo, and then this is a GT28 turbo, so it's smaller. So I'm gonna have to take this off, re-drill some holes here, and then re-drill some holes in my gasket too, so that it will actually fit on this thing. Hopefully you guys can see that. So that's what I'm gonna do. Okay, so this is what it's looking like. Really janky, but I think it's gonna work here. Let's see. Oh yeah, that'll work. It's gonna be a little sideways. I don't care. Let's throw this on. I'm gonna use some Loctite on these bolts as well. My GoPro died, but that was an absolute pain in the ass. I threw the turbo on, Loctited the turbo bolts, got the oil drain tightened up down here, and it's all good to go now. So now, last thing we need to do is the oil feed line. Obviously it connects here, and then at the back we're gonna go attach into the oil pressure sending unit, I think it's called, the oil pressure sensor. And what we're gonna use to do that is a little block like this, and hopefully it fits. I know these things fit with like Honda Civics. I hope they work with the Ranger. Okay guys, this is gonna be really hard to see, but there is our oil pressure sensor right there with the white cap. And if you can see it in the mirror, I'll see if I can zoom in when I'm editing, but it's right there. So let's go ahead and take this thing out. Okay, well I think this is the oil pressure sensor, and that's not the right size. So now I gotta figure out some sort of adapter to go from this size to that size so I can make this work. Okay, so this is what we came up with here. I didn't know what I was gonna do, but this works. These are, let's see, 1/4 inch brass fittings for plumbing. And this should work, because this basically just extends my oil pressure switch. And then this gives me the 1/8 inch that allows me to fit the end of my oil feed line. So this should be good. I'm just gonna tear these apart and throw some gasket maker in here just to make sure that they don't leak on me. Okay, now I get to deal with the nightmare of screwing this back into the block here and then somehow attaching this oil line on there and rotating this whole assembly because this doesn't spin. So I'll get a time lapse of this now. And there's the top oil line, just loosely put on there. I'm still gonna have to prime the oil, or prime the turbo in the next video with oil. But if you made it this far, you are very determined to turbo your Ranger. Good for you. This was a very long video, probably a very boring video, but informative. And we will be starting the Ranger in the next video. So look forward to that. We'll see you in the next one.